Hello, A Day with Caleb. We are back doing great movies that never got a sequel, and we'll end this list with movies that probably should have been on this list, but they actually got sequels. So let's kick it off with Castaway, excuse me, Tom Hanks's one of his best performances, I think. Uh, anytime you can act with an inanimate object and like you feel sorry for Wilson, who is not a real person, it's a volleyball, that is some high tier acting right there. And him shining the light to the Helen Hunt picture, just great stuff. That should, of course, I don't know where you would go. I guess you could pick up with him returning the package to that lady with the artwork, the wings. Apollo 13, again, where would you go with that? They return to Earth. Would it be the aftermath, like the turmoil of going through that? Where would that go? That would be interesting. Dances with Wolves, uh, Kevin Kline, right? And he directed this as well, right? That would be an interesting one. Silverado, in an age with all these iconic Western movies, and a lot of those Western movies did get sequels. Silverado, unfortunately, never did. I would put this probably in my top five Westerns. Tombstone being number one, Young Guns, Silverado probably would be number three. The Mask kind of had a sequel with Son of Mask, but such a failure that we wanted a Jim Carrey Mask sequel. And, that would have been great if they had done it around the time of that. Because he did two Ace Ventura films, but never did a second Mask film, which is unfortunate because that was right at the peak of Jim Carrey and his genius, comedic genius. No Country for Old Men. That, he kind of took out a lot of people, so I don't know what you would pick up with. I guess you would pick up with the aftermath. Four Weddings and a Funeral, Hugh Grant, right around his kind of stay in Hollywood, his success, if you will, known mainly, I guess, for rom-coms, even though he was in Wonka, which, obviously stirred up a bit of controversy, but he was in that. But I enjoy Hugh Grant's movies, and Four Weddings and a Funeral is a solid entry. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, I think initially there were talks for maybe a sequel, but then of course the passing of John Candy, you couldn't really do a sequel without John Candy. It wouldn't be the same. A movie I watch every Thanksgiving with my dad, my brother. It's great because it kind of reminds me of my dad and uncle. Their dynamic back and forth, and they would do those crazy adventures where they would go on trips like that. The Wedding Singer, that would be an interesting sequel because it kind of wraps up with them getting together, but then you could kind of follow up where's that lead, you know? Elf, that would be primed for a sequel. Jon Favreau did this right before Iron Man, uh, so that would be fun. It's always funny to see the guy in the red suit as Will Ferrell's kind of going through New York. That is not a paid actor or anything. They kind of did that guerrilla style, which means you just film it. You don't uh, just kind of go with it. You don't get permits or anything like that. You just film it. And that reaction, one of the funniest in the movie, It's a Wonderful Life. They're talking about remaking that. I hope they do not. That is a all-time classic. Watch it every Christmas along with Home Alone and Die Hard. That's going to get some of y'all. But such a classic movie when you think of some of the all-time greatest films in our lifetime or the history of cinema. It's a Wonderful Life is up there. Where would you follow up, though, for a sequel? I guess Saving the Bank, kind of reuniting with his family, getting all that money, seeing his brother. Dial In for Murder. This one's an interesting one because Dial In for Murder, we did not. The first kind of thing we did with this was radio broadcasts. The tapes, cassette tapes, they had these radio dramas. They would act out like The Skeleton Key, the Hitchhiker. Most of these were turned into movies, but Dial In for Murder was one of those. Obviously, Hitchcock would later turn it into a fantastic crime thriller, a mystery, but you know, where would you go with that? I think you could ask that with all of these, but a lot of these would be cool to see where they took it, you know. Same with this. I think they're trying to remake this as well. Vertigo, uh, Jimmy Stewart again, uh, and I think a lot of us would struggle with heights, especially after that opening act, seeing that unfold. We would all struggle with heights. You know, I have a healthy fear of heights. It's kind of like with snakes. As long as I'm strapped into something solid, like, you know, theme parks, Velocicoaster going over the water upside down, and, you know, Goliath at Six Flags being that high in the air doesn't really bother me. But like painting, for example, as long as I'm on a solid ladder, I'm okay. But once it starts to shake or something, that's when I'm afraid, and that's when I have a fear of heights. Black Swan. I just saw CZ's World did a breakdown on the Black Swan, all the kind of hidden meanings and, you know, black to white kind of thing. That would be interesting to pick up from her kind of being taken out by the Black Swan. Where would that go? The aftermath to follow. Would the new Black Swan kind of take up the mantle? That would be interesting. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? powerhouse Johnny Depp and Leo in the same film. Uh, and that's an interesting movie. Need to revisit that again, but that would be neat to see where that would unfold. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I believe they actually did do a TV show with the guy from Diagnosis Murder. I believe so. I don't think it. I don't think it lasted half a season, but they did try a TV show, not a sequel. So, Going with the Wind technically had a TV sequel movie called Scarlet. Uh, so technically, it already had a sequel, even though in TV form. But that would be interesting to pick up after that ending to see where Scarlet went after that. Let's see. Oh, A League of Their Own. That would be interesting. Kind of after the war, with men coming back to playing baseball, having the women's league. That would have been an interesting take. Unforgiven, Clint Eastwood's. He directed this, I believe, and Morgan Freeman is in this. Kind of the sins of our fathers kind of thing. Where would that go? Million Dollar Baby. Of course, the main person of the film kind of exits. So where would that go? But that would be interesting. It would, you could tie it in where do they get Clint Eastwood? Does he go to prison? Morgan Freeman, the girl who hit her, the chair, that could be interesting. Then you could do probably all the Pixar movies that don't have sequels besides Good Dinosaur and Lightyear. Never go back to that well. But Wall-E, Up, and Ratatouille, you could do all of those with sequels. Someone posted a meme. It has the people in the chair from Wall-E, but then it has someone making a motorized chair that you can go around in. So we're kind of living in Wall-E right now. Saving Private Ryan, picking up after the aftermath of the war. That would be an interesting look at that. Edward Scissorhands. This one is neat because Jenna Ortega promoting Beetlejuice, someone asked her if she would be a female Edward Scissorhands, and she basically said, we can have characters for women that don't touch on original characters, which, I agree with. But if they picked up with Edward in a sequel, what would that look like? What would that look like? After the success of Beetlejuice 2, would the company kind of go back and say, hey, there's Edward Scissorhands, you're good pals with Johnny Depp? It wouldn't be that hard of a stretch. And I'm sure you could do most of Tim Burton's movies sequels. Nightmare Before Christmas, even though he didn't direct that, that could be a fun sequel. especially now that that's a beloved Disney classic, even though technically it was under their parent company, Touchstone, not actually Disney, even though now it's promoted as a Disney classic. And it has Tim Burton, even though, is it Henry Selick directed it? It was from the mind of Tim Burton, and he obviously created the whole story and the characters and everything. I actually watched a very interesting video on YouTube, kind of a deep dive. Who created Nightmare Before Christmas? Was it Tim Burton? Was it, I believe, Henry Selick? Or was it Danny Elfman? Because he did do the songs, and the songs are kind of the main heartbeat of the film. I say all three, they all three contributed. It's kind of like asking who created Spider-Man. Obviously Stan Lee, but then you have the drawings from Ditko. So, and Bob Kane, everybody quotes him as the creator of Batman, even though Bill helped create and kind of drew out the character. There's a great documentary, Batman and Bill. Not sure if it's on YouTube or anything, but try and find that and watch it if you haven't. Then we end the video with ones that could have been on this list, but have since got their sequel. We did talk about one already, but Happy Gilmore 2 is being shot right now by Netflix. Adam is back as Happy Gilmore, and that's great. Shooter McGavin is back as well. Twister obviously got a sequel with Twisters, so great follow-up sequel. Then we have, of course, Beetlejuice, a follow-up to the original, which we talked about, and Gladiator 2, which is also being shot right now. Russell Crowe back, Ridley Scott directing. So that was everything. What's a movie you think deserves a sequel? Comment that down below. Like, subscribe, share with a movie lover. Until next time, go out there and watch those originals and keep collecting.